You're listening to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast with Mark Allred, Court Lalonde, and Rob Tomlin. You can subscribe and rate our show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Player.fm, SoundCloud.com, and Stitcher Radio. You can help the show financially by going to the blackandgoldhockeyblog.com website and clicking on either the Amazon.com or Fanatics.com banners to the right before shopping online. Now, time to start the Bruins hockey talk from 3 different countries. Enjoy the show.
Orr fights to keep it in. Does. Has it in the corner to Sanderson. Back in front to Orr. Shot. Scores! Bobby Orr!
Ray Bourque. Scores! Ray Bourque from the face-off circle to the right of Reggie Lemlin. Fired it down and Whitmore blew it.
Bounces down to Bergeron. He takes the space, pulling it wide to the right of Tatar. The snapshot over Mrazek. It's loose, and Bergeron scores! Patrice Bergeron!
Hello, Bruins fans. Welcome back for episode 87 of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast in partnership with Grandstand Sports Network, the best view in sports. We are back, and I'm sober, which is good because I had an absolutely great time last Saturday, and it was so much fun that it carried over when I got home to increasingly more drinks, and which ruined my Sunday altogether. So I was not able to do the show. Not feeling well, self-induced, and all my fault. So, Rob, Court, welcome back.
How was the get together then?
It was amazing, absolutely amazing.
It was all right.
See, you do it on the regular. This was the first experience for me. This was a bucket list item for me. So
Actually, it's a lot different than what I'm used to. They've stepped up their game. I'll say that. It's usually fantastic, but Karen from the Bruins alumni, she was a great host for us, and they put on a good time for everybody for the in the box. It was nice.
Yeah, like I mentioned,
and they won. So
yeah, it was a huge
both
win.
games I was at. So far, knock on wood, literally in front of a wood table, I've never seen Bruins lose a game in TV.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice streak you got going there.
Outdoor game, not so much.
Yeah, right.
You need to move to Boston then.
Yes.
For the playoffs at least.
I agree.
My wife disagrees.
Well.
Yeah, it was a great time. I just want to take a second just to thank Court. That was amazing. I was starstruck, actually, sitting in the box and looking down to my right and seeing Johnny Busick all the way down there, Tim Sweeney behind me, Reggie Lemlin behind me. Later on, Ken Lindsman comes in, and I was talking to Johnny Pye McKenzie's daughter, Lori. She was a hoot. So it was a great day, and like I said, I just got a little carried away afterwards. But let's just jump right into it. Last week's games, there were 4 games. Starting off with the Chicago Blackhawks on Sunday, there was a 3-1 loss. This is a tough game for me because obviously we went to the game on Saturday in Boston, and the next game was in Chicago, so travel times, wear and tear. I know the professionals, I know it's supposed to be ready, but it happens on back-to-backs. The one disappointing thing that I saw in this game was, I don't know who it was and whose idea it was, whether it was Chara's that, hey, I got to get off the ice because I'm tired, or it was
the penalty kill.
Yeah, or it was the bench yelling to him, get off the damn ice. Either who it was a huge mistake because it led to a goal and pretty much sealed the win for the Chicago Blackhawks. You don't take a change on a penalty kill in your own zone. I just didn't understand that, and that opened up a huge hole for a goal.
Well, I'm pretty sure Chara admitted that was his fault. because he came out of the box and wanted to get a forward on the ice. But it is what it is. Like, those things are bound to happen. We've had bounces where it's happened for us for the other team. So, plus Chara's going to be lost as like a forward trying to cover a point man, especially with his speed. So, and it's one game.
Yeah,
against a team that aren't anywhere near a playoff.
Yeah, like when Brent Seaborg scores, you know.
Yeah.
You know you're not having the best game.
Didn't he score 2 in that game?
No, just 1.
Oh.
You had Anisimov got the first, then Chara got our goal, and then Patty Kane got that power play goal, and then Kane.
It was that defenseman Gustafsson for the Blackhawks. He was all over the puck all night. He played one of his best games ever.
The day before, it was funny. I think I said to Mark when we were sitting there watching the game, it was like, I didn't even notice Patrick Kane on the ice. Yeah. Like, he was invisible on Saturday afternoon. Invisible.
Yeah. But, definitely showed up on the next game. You know.
Yeah, he hasn't shown up all season. So
yeah, right.
Sucks to be Chicago.
Moving on to Tuesday's game against the Carolina Hurricanes. This was like a game from like the 80s,
or like Game 7 against the Leafs.
Yeah. I mean, you're down and out. I don't know what happened. They definitely weren't prepared, and all of a sudden, it just seemed like with 7 minutes remaining in the game, the Bruins just light it up. They score 5 quick goals and come back and win it, while Chara, DeBrusk, and Krug are all sent to the locker room. They were shorthanded by 2 defensemen and came back that much. I was just absolutely amazed at how much fight that team had shorthanded to come back and win. It was absolutely
was 8
amazing.
minutes and 22 seconds.
Okay,
not 5 goals in.
Yeah, and wasn't Backus out of the? So not to mention you're already missing Bergeron, McAvoy, and wasn't Backus suspended for that game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So wow.
And what about that Grizzly goal?
Oh, that was so sick.
I didn't even realize that was Grizzly. I thought it was Heinen when I was watching.
Yeah, he came in.
He kind of jumped up, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's Heinen! He's going to miss the net." And then I was like, "Oh, it's Grizzly!" And they that was like a Torrey Krug in the playoffs when he first came in.
Yeah,
that's what that reminded me of. Just jumped in the play perfectly. Wonder goal.
And then Pasta kind of had a pretty good game.
Yeah, he did. I mean, scoring a hat trick, 2 goals, and then was it an empty netter at the end?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he scored all 3 of his goals in 7 minutes and 26 seconds.
Nice. Dropping the knowledge. He's been on fire, too. We'll talk about him later on with a certain debate. And then the stinker, I don't know what it is with this Bruins versus Florida Panthers, and I do get it that the Florida Panthers are a better team in the second half this year, but on Thursday night they got a no against the Bruins, and James Reimer comes in with a 3-0 shutout. Really not much to talk about in that game, except for we'll talk about it later.
What about Frank Vetrano getting an interference call on Anton Hudobin early in the first? That was quite funny.
I didn't even see that.
Alright. That was a highlight play because there was so many people talking about, oh my god, Frank Vetrano's going to come in and destroy the Bruins. And then the first thing he does is just gets a penalty for interference. That was funny.
I thought Carlo had a decent game against Florida, all things considered. He had to step in some huge shoes.
Yeah.
I honestly thought the defense didn't play as bad as
the score tells.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you look at what was on the ice. A lot of different people have had to step up, and it's kind of, you look at the beginning of the year, we'd win a couple games and then we'd lose a couple games when the whole roster's depleted. right now we're winning more than we're losing, but the fact that this team is doing what they're doing, as I said before, it just puts a smile on my face, considering you're missing pretty much guys that would be first-line players. You're missing your top pair defense. You're missing one of the best centermen in the league, best two-way centerman in the league. Besides, well, he is the best. It's just, it's crazy. Like, as much as people get frustrated, yeah, we lost Chicago, we lost Florida. And then we just, we're going to talk about what we just did last night. We put the whole world on check last night because if you watch they consider themselves the hockey mecca here in Toronto. You got Sportsnet and TSN. First story wasn't about the Leafs beating an AHL franchise in Montreal. It was the Bruins winning 3-0 over Tampa.
Yeah, and
whilst missing Bergeron, Chara, DeBrusque, McAvoy.
And what did John Cooper said? Like Bruce Cassidy said, it felt like we were watching a playoff game, and Cooper was like, felt like it was a playoff game, and if this is, I'm scared.
Yeah,
like he was like, we came at them like it was a playoff game, and Bruins played better.
It was just, and I know I've said this, and I'm probably repeating myself many times, but the Florida loss, it is what it is. The Chicago loss, it is what it is. But I'm taking that small sample size out of both of those games, and then what they did, even though the Carolina game wasn't the greatest, and to start, it was the best finish. This team just finds ways to get it going, and whether it be a stern message in the locker room from Bruce Cassidy, or the team just rallying up. I just love what I'm seeing, and that win last night against Tampa Bay really got me going in a playoff atmosphere and a scenario about if we do, it looks like we're going to probably match up against Toronto in the first series. I feel really good about that series now. You know what I mean? I know we have a lot more games to go.
But if we could play like we did in the beating of Toronto 4-1 this year, the two best games the Bruins have played this year were last night and the game where they beat Toronto 4-1.
Yeah. There's a lot of good things that come out of these wins like this and later in the season. And I do have to flip, but I got 7. Was there 9 games left? 3, 7. Hang on a second. Oh, no. 12. There's 12 games left.
And if the Bruins are 500, the Leafs can't lose another game if they want it. If the Bruins remain 500 for the rest of the season, I believe someone put it out on Twitter. The Leafs can't lose another game for the rest of the season to even think they can go ahead of the Bruins for home ice advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And right now, the Leafs are in third in the Atlantic with 93 points. The Bruins have 98 points in second, and Tampa Bay has 100. So, I mean,
games in hand, though.
Yeah, there are games in hand, but you still play Tampa Bay, I think, 2 more times, and you still play Florida 2 more times. So, hopefully,
I can see the next game against Tampa is going to be different because I don't know about you guys, but McDonough, I didn't even notice him out there.
I know.
Yeah. He wasn't out there, was he?
Yeah, he was. I'm pretty sure it was his first game last night. He was in the game last night.
I know he's been injured.
No, same here. So I think maybe it might have been the rust. But he was one guy I was like,
yeah, he did play last night.
Yeah. Not very well. And Stamkos, correct me, I know you guys goaltenders and watch the defense a little bit more than me. Did you guys not notice Hedman, how angry he was playing? He seemed to get frustrated on every little thing. The Bruins got into his head, which is a great thing, and Stamkos taking stupid penalties.
Yeah.
Carlo did a fantastic job even though Carlo was getting penalties, and I know people are going to get on him, I think he had a good game. Him and Torrey Krug were phenomenal out there, and Carlo pissed off Stamkos all night long.
Yeah.
He did a great job of it.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. Even as a young, Carlo's still a young, developing player. This is his second year in the NHL, so that's what you have to do as a big body like that. You have to get in the heads of these scorers that are so lethal. You can't leave any space was Stamkos on the ice. When you close that space, you frustrate the crap out of them. And obviously, even on the defensive side, like you said, Court, with Hedman getting all frustrated, that's our forwards driving to the net, gaining their position, and not moving, even though that he's probably the bigger guy. So
yeah, like Rick Nash wasn't, popping in goals last night, but I think he had one of his best games of the Bruin last night.
Yeah,
and that was a game that mattered. He played phenomenal. He was one of those guys that he was beating the defense and pissing them off and causing chances. Just driving them nuts last night with his one-handed dekes and stuff. It was good to see when he had to play a team that, much as people say big games, well, guess what? Somebody won a big game last night and Camille got a shutout in it. But, it was a big game last night and they stepped it up. It was a way bigger game than Florida or Chicago or anything. This Tampa game was a statement game.
And some of them saves were like, they should have been goals.
Oh, the behind-the-back glove?
Yeah. That
was crazy. And they, what's funny is they didn't even give him credit for a save on that.
Yeah, I saw that. Kalman reported that on Twitter.
Yeah, Matty K. I was surprised. I mean, it clearly hit his glove and changed direction. To me, that's a save, but...
So, and then we had the scary incident. Did you see it, Rob?
Oh, the David Backus skate to the knee. Yeah.
Yeah, I got that on the list of things to talk about in a little bit.
And then, Krug 19 minutes, 3 assists, +1. Fantastic game. Like, it's just, it's kind of funny. He always steps it up and everybody dumps on him. And what were you saying, Rob, about his stats?
He's on pace for, how many points was it? Let me look it up. I think it's around 60 points, and it's the first time since Bork that a defenseman will have got 60 points for the Bruins. Yeah, he has 51 points right now in 66 games played. He's a +3, and he has 13 goals on the season. I didn't even realise that.
Isn't he the highest scoring defenseman on the team?
Yeah, by far, I'm pretty sure. But he's played totally different this year. I mean, I see him as he's a leader on the back end as well for some of the younger guys.
Yeah.
Cassie agrees with you, and he put that A on that one game, right? In Detroit.
Yeah. And when he plays with guys like Carlo, when he played with Holden for that game, I think it was Holden's first game that he played with Torrey Krug, you could see him telling him, I've got the net, you go to the boards. Or I'm going to the boards, you go to the net. You could hear him shouting constantly. And that's what you want from a defenseman. You want a guy who's verbal. You were talking about Victor Hedman before, and he's one of the more verbal defensemen in the league. And that's why he's so good. He tells his partner what to do, and he does the rest of the work. Mm-hmm. So I think Torrey Krug's, for all the people that have said trade him and he doesn't generate offense, and 51 points in 66 games for a defenseman is really good.
Yeah, definitely.
And if he hits 60, how long until his next contract?
I think it's 3 years away.
Yeah.
I don't have the cap friendly up right now, but
thank God it's 3 years away.
Talking about next week's games, in the month of March, it is a pretty light week. Playing every other day. Sorry, but you got tomorrow. You got the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are still in the mix in the first wild card position. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and they don't have a very good away record at 15-17. So.
And we'll be playing some desperate hockey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're right, Mark. Krug's contract ends 2019-2020.
Cool.
Unrestricted 2021.
Thank you, Court. And then they go on the road for a 4-game stint, starting off in St. Louis on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. That's going to be a tough game. We don't get to see St. Louis a lot. Believe the Bruins beat them the last time they played. And Friday night at 8:30 they play Dallas, which is going to be another great game. Dallas is
Oh, God. Tyler's second.
Yeah, Dallas is currently in the second wild card position.
38, 26, and 8.
And surprisingly, I didn't even notice that, but St. Louis is out of the playoff picture.
Yeah.
I mean, well, they have 81 points.
Not
Dallas has 84, and Colorado has 84, and Los Angeles has 84. So it's really tight right there. So anything could happen, but hopefully...
And didn't they trade Stastny away to the Jets?
They did.
For the deadline.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting week regardless. But hopefully, I'd like to see a 3-0 week. But we've all, seen differences. What was I going to say? The topic of Bruce Cassidy for the Jack Adams is really heating up. And I wanted to touch on this because there's a lot of people that are saying that Gerald Gallant is a shoo-in for it, and I'm not overly sure about that. I mean, nominated, yes. Would Bruce Cassidy be nominated? Most likely, and another one, of course. But it just seems like Vegas has taken a little downturn with their recent play, which could possibly give Cassidy an uphand on winning it. So there's a lot of people that want us to talk about it. So what do you guys think?
It's going to be Vegas with Gallant, and then it's going to be Tampa Bay's coach, and then our coach. So I think that's a tough one to call. It depends what Tampa and Vegas do by the end of the season, because there's still time left. You never know if a team's just going to go on a streak now and win a lot of games. But to be fair, the Bruins had a good team, but Vegas, that team didn't look that impressive coming out of the draft, and I'm really surprised with them. So I have a feeling Gallant's going to win it. But I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking, Cooper has a good... I still think Cassidy has a better chance over Cooper, especially the way, it's going right now. But if Boston gets ahead of Tampa and comes pretty darn close to winning the President's Trophy and Vegas continues to sputter, then Cassidy has a good chance. But the problem is Gallant's been the hands-down contender for this all year long from the way they've been playing. Like, he's taken a team that's supposed to suck, but the problem is everybody's got the mentality that from back in the day when Anaheim and San Jose and all them broke in the league, and yeah, those teams sucked. But Vegas had the option of not picking garbage players.
Yeah.
They picked a pretty decent hockey club. It's showing on the scoreboard how they're beating hockey teams. But Gallant is also a fantastic coach, and it has a lot to do with the way Florida embarrassed him, how they fired him. And he's done a great job in Vegas. I think as of right now, it ends today. Gallant wins. Cassidy's second. Cooper's third.
There you go.
In the voting.
I didn't realize Nashville were in first place with 104 points as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Nashville's unbelievable, though. You look at that roster, and I say they're going all the way.
But as well, with Vegas, I see it probably more as GM of the year, because some of the trades that he did when he was going to pick up players are unreal. And then stiff the team even more by picking someone that they kind of wanted keeping. So
yeah, David Poyle. David Poyle is a good general manager.
I love those trades where it's like, oh, we'll give you this guy if you don't touch these certain players, and then they go, okay, and then they take him anyway.
Well, look at the Carlson they got from Columbus. Columbus wanted them to take him. He's one of their leading scorers.
Yep.
On Marc-Andre Fleury, Pittsburgh's like, please take him, and they wanted to take him anyways, and they took a draft pick with him, and he's one of the best goalies.
Yeah.
It is. Vegas is a beautiful story. It's great for the league. We all love the game of hockey, and it would be better. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I say they do deserve it, but it's a better story if Vegas has, Coach of the Year, makes playoffs. It's going to help a team like Seattle. It's going to help the league. And more things that help the league. I hate being the corporate guy, but more things that help the league. It helps the players. It's a better thing.
Let me ask you guys something. Now that we're talking about expansion teams like Vegas, when Seattle comes to fruition, okay, which is it's most likely definitely going to happen. Mm-hmm. Do you think that players now are going to be like more apt to like waive trade clauses to go to a place like Seattle because of the success that Vegas had this season? There's not that I'm afraid to go there kind of because it's new thing anymore. It's like, oh my God, I mean, if Vegas can do it, maybe they can too.
I think you got to look at it the same way as will GMs give up the same type of players they did? Because, like, look at William Karlsson. Would you leave him unprotected if you knew he was going to do that? No.
Hell no.
So I think the way the draft goes will probably change. I think if they did it the old style where it was a lot of the younger players that were available than the older guys, then you probably wouldn't have had that team in Vegas. It wouldn't have been that good.
Right.
The good thing about that team is there's so much veteran presence and so many, like, you got a mix of old guys and young guys, and everyone gets on with each other and they're teaching each other. I mean, like, Fleury playing with Subban has made Subban better.
Yes.
Like, I've seen Subban play so many times. I've watched the AHL games, and he plays totally different now. So,
and I had this conversation with Josh from shippingupthecauseway.com, and we both said that it's due because there's somebody with Subban all the time. There's a goalie coach that doesn't basically leave his side, and that's a luxury he didn't have in Providence. So,
yeah. And he doesn't show that frustration as much either.
Right.
But going back to the whole expansion drafting, I think you'll probably see guys waive the no trade clauses, but it'll be you guys like Adam McQuaid.
Well, he doesn't have a no trade.
Well, I know, but it'll be those kind of guys that want to get, like, playing bottom pairing minutes, want to play higher in the standings. Like, they'll want to go to a team like that because they'll get more playing time, probably get more money.
Yeah.
It sucks being a guy who has to sit at the bottom of a team. Like, look at the Bruins. You've got guys, like, I'm sure Giunto wants to play higher in the lineup, but he can't right now. Like, because the top two lines are playing so good, you're not going to stick a guy like him up there. So, same thing with that. He'd probably, if he was still on the Bruins when Seattle come around, he'd probably want to go there. So,
and he'd probably be one of the players that are going to be exposed, either him or Miller.
Yeah, just not re-signed.
Right, and not saying that McQuaid and Miller are terrible and they need to go to an expansion team. It's when you think about the business, it's a contract. You're freeing up a little bit of money to use elsewhere to make the team better, regardless of what happens at the end of this season and the playoffs.
Yeah, and teams are going to start signing really weird players just so they can expose them to the draft, I think. Like, you're going to see the bottom sixes in a lot of teams look a lot different.
It's crazy.
And it's only the guys who know that they're going to be in playoff contention that sign the better guys. Because you don't want to lose a young kid who's got a lot of promise to a team when you could have an old guy on the roster and let that guy play in the AHL. So,
right. Yeah. Speaking of crazy, Tuukka Rask, the shutout last night, was the first time that Tampa Bay has been shut out this season.
It's actually the first time since, I think, last season by Tuukka Rask.
Yes. Yeah.
Someone said on the TV while watching the game.
So, Court, you got some numbers for us, right?
The Tuukka Rask?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's his fifth 30-win season. He is now at the top of the Boston Bruins all time for 30-goal seasons, 30-win seasons.
And is that consecutive or just as a career?
Let me pull it up.
I think it's consecutive.
It would make sense if it is. I don't know. I'm going to pull it up, though.
Okay.
I couldn't say yes or no. So he's got.
When did Thomas leave?
Well, when Thomas quit on the team?
2012.
Yeah.
13 season.
Yeah, because he didn't leave, right? He gave up on his whole team. Didn't go to
So
White
it
House.
must be consecutive seasons then. It's
Yeah.
every season that he's been a starter.
I'm going to pull it up. Keep going. I didn't have it in front of me. My bad.
No problem.
New expansion talk there. Yes, that's weird. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's consecutive. Since 2013, he had 36, 34, 31, 37, and now 30.
And he doesn't play the big games.
No.
Oh, no.
And he craps his pants.
Doesn't win big games, craps his pants, yada, 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 throws his team under the bus. What else?
Shuts out the number 2 seed in the league.
And then now the
you know.
new one is, well, not the new one, but now the only thing they can say, they keep over and over, is but he makes $7 million a year. They can't win if you got $7 million a year. Someone said on Twitter last night, he wins the cup, they still won't shut up.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you look at Chicago, they have a $7 million defenseman in Brent Seabrook, and you don't see all their fans going, throw him under a bus, get rid of him, somehow. No,
Well, actually, lately this year they're saying get rid of him, but that's...
Well, yeah, but the last few seasons that he hasn't been incredible, they haven't been doing it. But there's a lot of teams where they have that one guy that half of the fan base don't seem to like.
Well, it's not just the one guy. The fans like to dump on Toy Krug, only when he has bad games. Brendan Carlos have a great game. The guy gets a second penalty, and all of a sudden social media is like, he's the worst defenseman in the world. I'm like, all right, Chara's over. Chara's a bag of poop. McQuaid sucks. Krejci's overpaid. At the beginning of the year, there was a writer who said that Bergeron's days were numbered. Like, come on now.
The narratives.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. You know what? It doesn't matter. Tuukka played fantastic last night. The team played fantastic, and that's all that matters. As long as the team wins, the team plays great, I don't care.
Yeah.
You just push out all the other noise.
Yeah. W in points. That's all I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
With the game against the... I know we're going backwards a little bit, but I want to discuss it because it was a big to do. The Backus hit on is it Konechny? No, that's
Trocheck.
Trocheck. Yeah. What did you guys think of that? I mean, obviously there was no, he's not going to get suspended, but
that is not a hit from behind ever in any. Jesus Christ. What was that? I don't know what that was about.
I don't either. I mean, I think Trocheck put himself in a pretty vulnerable position with his head down, trying to find the puck, and then bam, here comes... And Backus didn't throw the elbow up. Backus is a tall guy. He just basically plowed into him.
Well, it was his shoulder, and it went through... It hit the peak of his shoulder... hit Trocheck's shoulder, and then Trocheck's head bounced onto Backus, and then he flopped like a fish and went down. And then when the refs stop the play and then say, Backus hit from behind, and then they show the replay and Trocheck's holding his stick out around Backus. No. Just... Jesus Christ. Can we get some new refs?
Yeah, I just thought it was the same hit as the Hornquist on McAvoy.
Yeah.
It was less than that.
Oh, no, it was less, but it's just it's still a hockey play. It's still a hit.
It's just the inconsistencies of calls these days, and, hopefully the GM meetings, which I believe are, I think, this week, are going to get some clarity to this whole thing, because it's just, I mean, and I'm not saying it's against the Bruins all the time, but it just seems like we're getting some, once we make the hit, it's up for question, but when we get hit, everything's okay.
I think they should bring in, you should be able to challenge the call of a penalty. I know it slows down the game, but that, are you if I was the coach and I looked up and saw the replay and I heard the ref say, hit him from behind, and then just saw the screen, I'd be like, no. Do you want to go? Do you want to look up and just have a quick check? You stupid. And that's why they stand under the screen so they can't see it.
Yeah.
I bet some of them see the reflection in the glass and just like say the penalty and then go, I'm going to get killed. Like, I'm going to get jumped after this game.
The good news is
to be a ref.
He did not get suspended. That's the good news.
Yeah.
It sucks that he was out of the game, but it ended up being a meaningless game. And as someone joked on Twitter, well, I guess he needed the rest again. I know he was pissed. He was like, I just want to go back to playing hockey. Like, are they really just going to take out checking out of the game?
I know. That's what it seems like it's coming down to.
Have you heard that the NHL want players to stop calling out the NHL
yeah,
abuse?
I love that article. That was a Sportsnet article too, and I read the whole thing.
This happened as soon as the Brad Marchand thing happened.
Yeah.
Like, when he got interviewed after the game. And people are making these jokes where, like, Bacchus got a penalty and they said, game misconduct for Bacchus. And then it was like Marchand heading to the dressing room. And I was like, that's what it's...
Now, question for you
getting
guys.
Beat up.
The real question is, Marchand does that hit, what happens?
Oh, suspended.
Suspension.
Yeah.
Easily.
But you
know
that's
why? That's not even saying...
benefit of the doubt. You think that he meant to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not even being biased at all.
Yeah.
Oh, and to your previous point, when you were talking about Krug there, Rob, Bruins Network put on Twitter last night, today, when you soon as you said it, I was like, I remember this. Krug is now tied his career high in points, 51, with 13 goals, 38 assists, and 51 in 66 games. He's the sixth. He's tied for sixth in points among defensemen in the NHL.
That's sick. He's in the top 10, and everybody hates him.
How much does he get paid?
5.5.
Hold on, I literally just had that on the screen.
Yeah. I wonder what his cap hit is compared to the other top 10.
It's 5.25.
Oh, okay.
And he's top 10 in the NHL right now.
Remember, he's garbage.
Wow. Sell him. Just bag of pucks. That's all we need.
How about the play of Riley Nash covering for the injured Patrice Bergeron on that top line? In my opinion, I honestly think that he has just transformed his total game. He was this year has been a surprise year for me anyway. But this role that he's taken on while Bergeron is away, recovering from his injury, is just another level that I've never seen since Riley's been a Bruin for the last 2 years. It's something to talk about. I mean, he is doing what he has to do. And like Court was saying during the off-air discussion, it's the next man up mentality, and they're doing it within the organization and within the NHL organization without going down deep and finding another guy, even though, bottom six roles are being filled from guys like from Providence and so on. But I think his game's been really nice, and it is a contract year for him, so I don't know where that's gonna go. I mean, obviously this is really good on his resume, though.
He's playing himself out of a contract for next season.
Because he's going to want money, right?
Well, if you can fill in for a guy like Bergeron and actually do his job for him, I think you should be playing somewhere instead of the fourth line. Or the third line in his case. Because you're not getting paid enough.
Right.
Yeah, and he's only making $900,000. So for his age, 28, he is the best $900,000 in the league.
Oh, yeah, by far.
Yeah, bar none.
And
in the celebration of St. Paddy's Day, he's a ginger. There you go.
Can you not remember the same thing happened with Carl Soderberg?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was a great defensive centerman, played himself out of a contract, and now he gets paid $4.5 million for, I think it's 6 years for Colorado.
Yeah.
And do you think Sweeney's going to do another Gregory Campbell? Like, the guy was great for us, but he got a big contract, and he should have just been let go.
Yeah.
It just sucks. You look at Riley Nash, you just look at the depth chart, you're like, okay, you don't sign Riley Nash, who do you got? Oh, yeah, you got JFK, you got Jax, you got all these guys that are going to be Ryan Fitzgerald, Kopanen, you got Kobe K. There's so many guys.
Yeah, so many guys.
He's
Fill that
third,
really like, it fill that third center role, right? Like, I don't know. It's a real tough one. Like, what's Donato play?
Center.
Trent Frederick.
Well,
center.
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 Cameron Hughes.
Center.
Well, who's to say? I know I'm asking the question purposely, but who's to say these guys can't fill in like JFK? Who's to say JFK really can't? Or Bjork could go back to center. Like, there's all these guys. Like, who's to say these guys can't fill that role next year? As much as Riley Nash is amazing, like he's played phenomenal. Do you really want to give him all that money if maybe you can still not pay those other guys? Maybe somehow resign Rick Nash?
Yeah. You know what you're talking about?
Let Riley go, re-sign Nash for a year, and have a young kid come up and do Riley's job. Because Nash was playing the center role.
Because you're going to have, all these guys that are young on our team now, rookies like your Heinens and your DeBrus, they're not going to be rookies next year. So you can't say that they're the young guys. And they've got some decisions, like Giunta not coming back. Sorry about your luck, pal.
I don't know.
Not a chance in the world. I'll say that. Like, I don't know. If they brought Giunta back, I'm sorry, Sweeney, you got a serious problem. The guy's 39 years old. He's not Zdeno Chara.
Right.
And then you got Tommy Wingels. But Schaller, like, it's like tough. They're both the same kind of guy. It's really tough. You look at who's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, and Riley Nash, sorry, buddy. It's going to be tough to bring him back.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think Giunta's going to retire at the end of the year.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
He's played well.
He looks every game when it gets to like 2 minutes left and they show the bench. He looks half dead. Mm-hmm. He's got that Chara like red nose thing where it starts to glow at the end of a game. Yeah. He's had a great career.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great pickup. Like, Sweeney looks like a genius for it. He's filled in great.
Yeah,
I don't see him playing up to do it.
Yeah, I don't think he's playing it. I think he'll be up on the ninth floor watching a lot of games in the playoffs, but this is what it is.
The additions of players like Giunta and Wingels, they're good depth moves for what the Bruins are trying to do this season and in the playoffs. These are not moves that are going to be signed for long term.
But you never know with Wingels. Like, he's supposed to be, the thing about him is he's an amazing locker room guy, and as you saw on Behind the B, I don't know if you guys saw it, he was one of the guys that, like, Sweeney really wanted. Like, he was one of his targets for the day.
Yeah.
He was a target. It wasn't just, hey, we can get Wingels. It was, we're trying to get Wingels.
Yeah. And he's been a good player so far.
Mm-hmm.
Throws his body around. He's got some speed to him. I saw him play.
His forward checking is unreal.
Yeah. That's one thing I noticed. Even at the AHL level, when he was with the Worcester Sharks, and they played the New England teams like 12 times, and they played the Providence Bruins 12 times a season. That's one thing that I noticed was his speed, his grittiness, and his forechecking. So I had the pleasure of watching many games that he's played and at the NHL level too, if I had a chance to watch the Sharks out west. Speaking of Western teams, going back to the upcoming schedule, next Friday, or this coming Friday, sorry, they're playing the Dallas Stars. So this kind of segue into the David Pastrnak versus Tyler Seguin debate. This is a good one because obviously Tyler Seguin's been in the league a little bit longer than David Pastrnak, but just by the way David's been playing this season and last, I would have to, and because he's still a Bruin, I definitely have to give it to David Pastrnak on this one. There's a lot of people out there that still do not like that trade and want Tyler back, but
it's totally different system over there. So
yeah,
I like what Pastrnak does. I think he has his games where he still looks as young as he is. Like, you don't expect him to be a young guy anymore. But he has them games where he just kind of throws the puck into space and skates off. But I think he's going to be great for him. I really do. And all that time he's got to mature is really good.
Yeah, like right now, Tyler Seguin's a better hockey player. But this is... someone said to me, "Oh, you can't compare." Well, you can compare. You can compare anything. The actual, like the whole word "compare" means. Anyways, it makes me laugh. But overall, what he brings to the team, what he brings to the locker room, I think Pasternak would be have a better career longevity in the NHL than Seguin will. It's just the way I look at it. I don't see Dallas winning any cups any day soon. I think. Pasta is more of a complement to players. Seguin's a centerman, but I don't know. Would we even be able to have all these players on our team if we still had Seguin on the roster? We could never answer that question. But if the rumors are true, and here's my whole thing, because I'm about chemistry and players getting along and stuff. If the rumors are true of what happened, not the drinking part, but that other stuff, then sorry, I wouldn't want anything to do with this guy with a 10-foot pole. And someone was mentioning to me, if you look at it in Game 7 against the Leafs, yes, Seguin was on the ice when they scored the game winner, but when they had to tie the game, Seguin was on the bench. Nathan Horton was on the ice.
Yep.
And I know that's the other guy in question. Now, there's no way in the world that they were so adamant about wanting to trade this guy and making it publicly how they did, like on Behind the B, if some of those rumors aren't true.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's not just about the drinking. So, as much as Marchand and all that, and they joke around with the guy and all that, but you seem to see only Marchand's like the only one that jokes around with him before games and talks to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something happened there, man. So, unfortunately, as much as people loved him, and I know a lot of fans thought he was cute and all that great stuff, and he's a phenomenal hockey player. I'm not. But character to me wins all. And as much as Brad Marchand does that crap on the ice, supposedly off the ice, he's a great guy. So, sorry, Tyler Seguin, if you did supposedly, and I'm saying supposedly because I can't prove it, slept with Nathan Horton's wife, you're a scumbag and you shouldn't be on this team. And I'm glad you're not. Plain and simple.
Yep.
So right away, you lose all, and I just choose past that. Plus, as Mark said before, I'm going to choose whoever's wearing the black and gold. This is what it is.
Yeah.
The guy is no longer here. I don't care anymore. And the fact that it's going to be the narrative again when we play him, it's literally get over it, people. He no longer plays here. He's not coming back.
Yeah.
The only guy I want back is Mark Savard.
Yeah, right?
No, seriously. The rest of it, you know what? I don't care. Once you're gone, you're gone.
I got to reach out to him and see if he wants to join the show, because I know he's been doing a ton of podcasts lately.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a fantastic guest.
He's also been doing a thing on
YouTube.
How to tape your stick up.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love that. I share as much as I can, and I watch it, because it's really cool how he breaks everything down and different techniques of taping your stick. And
just to let everybody know, it's heel to toe.
Yep.
And that's how that's how you do it. So many. I'm just saying. That's just my my personal preference.
That's how I was taught, and that's how I'll always tape my stick.
Oh, yeah.
But any of these players, once they're no longer a Bruin, thanks for anything. Unless you're Ray Bourque. Other than that, Seguin was here for a bit. Come on, he wasn't even here for long enough to have all those feelings. I don't know. It's just weird for me.
I'd rather have Thornton or Kessel back in the prime than Seguin.
Yeah, and Thornton, that's still to this day, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
That one making no sense to me. But we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I don't think you're trading a guy like Tyler Seguin if there isn't a problem in the dressing room. And I'm sorry, no one really caused to think about it when it happened, right? The players didn't go, oh, they should never have traded him.
No, everyone just got on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you only see it when you see some players go, like when Fleury went from Pittsburgh. Every player had something to say about it on Twitter.
Yeah, they miss him.
Yeah. And when a guy like Seguin went, nothing.
Yeah, how about this? Montreal Canadiens, you guys see what they did in the warm-up last night?
No, I didn't.
This goes to Thomas Plekanec's character. They were all wearing turtlenecks. That's awesome.
What was it? What was it?
That goes to the character. They all a bunch of the guys like Gallagher and all those guys. They wore turtlenecks in the warm up.
Oh, no kidding.
But that's amazing.
Yeah, no, that's a huge shout out.
He's been there since he was drafted. So
and I understand people's points. Like some people were saying to me, but Tyler Seguin's just that good. But you know what? You can score all the goals in the world and all that. But if no one wants to play with you and no one trusts you on that ice.
Yeah, I mean,
be on this hockey club.
But I could put like Noel Achari in between Jamie Benn and Alexander Radulov, and he'd put points up. Like,
yeah, but when it comes
line that he is on is unreal. Right
Seguin would get the points without those guys, but
but
Ben has done a fantastic job in reeling in Seguin.
Yeah.
And personally,
when you think about two different players and two different styles of game between Tyler Seguin and another, when you think about how disliked you are throughout the league, I compare him to like an Alex Burrows. You know what I mean? It's they are two different players offensively, big time, no doubt about it. But, I mean, I heard a story on a podcast a couple months ago about Alex Burrows always, and out of the kindness of his heart, but I know there's an angle why he does this, always goes out and makes sure that he goes to off-season charity events with other players in the league, not just his teammates. Because the fact is that he wants to do it to get known. He doesn't want to be known as being a scumbag anymore. He wants to make friends. But, I think that's kind of dumb, in my opinion. I think you should just do it out of the kindness of your heart. And, if you want to contribute to a charity event, you should just stay home and dump some money towards them, but don't go there trying to make friends and use that as a way to communicate. I just think that was just really stupid.
And I don't want to put this as a dump on Seguin, because once again, I'm saying there's many, he's a top 10 player in the league. He is.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Skill set. He's a top 10 player in the league. But like I said, I'm basing this all on a rumor, and if the rumor is true, and it seems to be, you know what? I don't want anything to do with the guy.
Right.
It's a morals thing. I don't know. I wouldn't trust him. I wouldn't even trust him as a friend.
That's true. All right, gentlemen. That is the show for today and this week. Glad to be back with you after a rough weekend last weekend. Time always goes by fast. Please, everybody, follow us on Twitter. And if you want to buy our merchandise, all the listens are a 9, but you'd be a 10 if you went to bngshop.bigcartel.com and bought some merch. It looks good. We are selling a lot of stuff, and it's exciting. So we get some limited edition sweatshirts and T-shirts and a lot of good stuff. So check it out and support the show.
And then sweatshirts won't be there long because it's heating up a bit.
Yeah.
And some people forget them. Myself included.
I forgot mine too when we were with Thomas. So
Thomas went out of his way to bring them to us and did a phenomenal job getting everything prepared and even doing the whole thing of getting the shirts made and the hoodies. And we totally blew it.
Yeah.
My apologies, Thomas.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have forgotten
on air.
Thomas. I'd have made sure I had mine. Just saying.
Him and his fiance were absolutely a pleasure to meet, along with your friends, Court.
And Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren was good, and her friend, and Adam, and we had a nice little crew before and after the game, and it was a lot of fun. So I wish we could do that more often, but we will get together sooner or later. This time, I want Mr. Rob Tomlin to get his ass over here and watch a game.
I will.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for listening, and take care.
Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 90% rate. Nick Bukestad.
Backhand scores! Wow, what a goal!
David Backus. And Zach Parisi were stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you are a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey. Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow @collegehockey.
Champions of the college hockey world!
Puck gets under the skate of Nicky Petty, and Jack Studnicka, shorthanded breakaway, scores! Tucks it in underneath Cole Ceci, and it's a 1-0 Oshawa lead. Now McLeod mishandles, and Donato tries to make a pay. Here's Donato. In deep, Ryan Donato curls and scores! A highlight reel goal for Ryan Donato.
To make something happen. Goes to his left, in front, and that's Trent Frederick on the one-time redirect. Frederick with his 4th, and Team USA now up 8-2.
Hey Bruins fans, as mentioned earlier, we have Josh back. He writes for the shippinguptocauseway.com website. Josh, welcome back. We're going to talk a little bit of prospects.
Hey Mark, always glad to do prospect talk with you. How are you today?
I'm good. Sorry about last week. I mentioned earlier that I was a little drunk, but
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, at least it was for a good cause, though. It was a great game to be at.
What a blast! Absolute blast.
Absolutely.
For those guys.
Seems like the Bruins have had quite a number of these kind of almost 80s style games where the score just gets run so high.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it was a great day, and it just the next day I just absolutely paid for it. So I feel like a rookie when it comes to alcohol consumption, but regardless, I'm glad that you understood and you came back to.
I had quite a number of those days myself.
Yeah. Let's just jump right into it with the American Hockey League, the Providence Bruins. The Baby Bees had 2 games last week. They were on the road the weekend before for 2 games, and then they didn't have a Sunday game, so it's just going to bring us right into our discussion right now. And on Friday, March 16th, 2018, at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, the Providence Bruins hosted the Rochester Americans. The first period, Adam Perrell got his 6th goal of the season from Augustino and Chris Breen at the 15:26 mark. And the second period, Connor Clifton got on the board with his 3rd goal at the 6:51 mark, unassisted. And then it was the start of the Austin Czarnik show, and this kid's just been amazing this season. He scored his 18th from Fitzgerald and Cross, which was on the power play at 8:14. And jumping to the 3rd period, Czarnik again with his 19th goal from Augustino and Fitzgerald. Another power play goal at 5:41. And to end the game, Czarnik caps off the hat trick. His 20th goal from Cross at the 19:07, which was an empty net goal. Shots on goal were 49 shots to 31 Rochester shots. Pretty amazing. Providence was pretty good on the power play with 2 for 5. McIntyre with a win, stopping 28 of 31. Your thoughts on that game, sir?
That was an amazing game to watch. I'm so glad that work was kind of quiet Friday night to allow me to be able to keep an eye on that game, because that was a fun one. That was a real good game to be at. It felt like the entire team kind of came together for that win. There was not just, besides Austin Czarnik, there was not just one person who was standing out above the rest. It seemed like the defense kind of held down pretty tightly. It seemed like the forward lines were all rolling effectively. The power play was good, which has kind of been a sore spot for me. It seems like they kind of get in my minus column a lot, except lately. I got to give them that they have done quite a good job lately, but it seemed like every kind of facet of Providence's game was crisp, clean, and ready to go for that night. They absolutely came out to play, and they did such a good job of it.
Yeah, and jumping back on the Austin Czarnik hype, he's just been an amazing player this season. With those points, we'll get to last night's game when he didn't score any points, but he's got 58 points, and he's literally 5 points behind Lehigh Valley's Phil Verone for the league lead. So he's currently in 3rd place right now. So
my only concern about Czarnik is, I think we've been over this before, but I'm worried that he's kind of a tweener, a la Seth Griffith from years prior. Just that I'm not 100% on his skating. He's got the shot, he's got the release, he's got the accuracy. He's even pretty good at the face-off top, but I don't know. There's just one component of his game that I can't pick it out exactly, but there's something. He's a very good player, but he's not a complete player yet, and I'm hoping that he can put it together and kind of figure out what it'll take for him to get to the next level.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right there. I mean, that happens with a developing player, and as I believe a 25-year-old, 25-year-old, he's still developing. So
yeah, exactly.
And those points that you brought up might be the thing that the NHL Bruins see too, and why he's not at that higher level.
Yeah, it's just like there's an it factor to certain call-ups. You know, we saw Danton Heinen. He started the year with Boston, not this season, but last season, this season as well. But he went down, played a year in Providence, and then came back up this season, and it was as if you saw a night and day player. He was invisible last season, and then this season he stepped up and he made his mark. And I think that's what Zarnik needs to do to solidify a spot in an NHL roster.
Absolutely. Zane McIntyre, actually, I mean, he's been playing well. I'm not going to down his efforts this season. They're far from his numbers of last year. But I thought on Friday night he did play very well. He giving up that first goal in the let me see. I got to bring my numbers back here.
Yeah, that was at 113. That was kind of reminiscent of when he'd give up that one goal like early in the game that you could almost time your watch by. It was very reminiscent of that.
Yeah, and I think we talked about him doing that. I mean, it almost like he's not fully prepared, and then when he lets that goal within the 2-minute range in air quotes I just showed. He recovers very well. You know, it's almost like he got beat. Then now it's time to get to work, and I believe that the guys in front of him see that they work harder, and in results they come out with a 5-3 win.
Yeah, absolutely. It was good to see him kind of regain his form. It's almost like the NHL Bruins, where they go down by a goal. It's no big deal. They use that as almost motivation, and they win the game. We've seen that how many times this season with the big club, and they've done a fine job thus far.
And then jump into last night's game against the Lehigh Valley Phantoms at the PPL Center. There was 34 shots that Lehigh took, 33 shots that the Bruins took. And from my experience in watching that game last night, I just thought that the game action was there for the Providence Bruins, but no finish. They couldn't capitalize on anything. It was just a tough game to watch. Jordan Binnington, in that he's having a good season as a lone player from the St. Louis Blues organization, and he stopped 31-34. So his game was there. It was just the guys in the front. Yeah, going back to this, just no finish. And Dustin Tokarski was absolutely standing on his head. So
that was probably the best game I've seen Tokarski play.
Yeah,
he had the game of his life.
Yeah. So the Bruins get shut out 3-0. I don't know where to go with this game, and my biggest thing, Josh, is how this team is going to respond today against the Bridgeport Sound Tigers with the puck set to drop at 3:05. I believe is it in Providence?
It's in Providence, yeah. So they had to go out to Lehigh Valley and then get their ass kicked, come back home on short rest to play a rested Bridgeport Sound Tigers team.
Yeah.
So today's going to be one of those statement games where they're going to need to dig real deep and figure out what they're made of, because yeah, exactly. Today is going to be a real tough challenge for them.
Yeah, and the season record between this Bridgeport Sound Tigers and the Providence Bruins is 4-4-0-1 this year. And let me see if there's anything else. No. So they got to respond. I'm pretty guaranteeing that Zane McIntyre gets the start today because he normally does the Friday Sunday games and gives the duties to Bennington on the Saturday. So
yeah, exactly. So the nice thing is, I heard from Mark Diver that apparently Zane McIntyre didn't even make the trip out to Lehigh Valley because he's going to make the trip to just sit there on the bench. And they called up the goalie from, not Dan Vladar, but the goalie from, the backup goalie from Atlanta to just kind of sit on the bench, kind of meet them there, just sit on the bench and do his thing. And then he would be returned today. So Zane's actually still in Providence. He was in Providence this entire weekend, thankfully. So at least Zane will be, hopefully, fresh and ready to go.
I didn't know
fresh
that.
As lettuce.
I didn't know that. Josh dropping the knowledge. I love it.
It's why you have me on here.
Exactly. Yeah. I did a lot of soul searching to find the right person that can bring those tidbits. So it's always welcome to have you back. Actually, you know what? We might as well just say it now. I'm thinking about. I mean, we've talked about it with the other guys, and we'd love to have you on a weekly basis. So, if you're interested, I'd love to have it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to join you guys whenever my work schedule allows. It's just healthcare, 3 to 11. Doesn't exactly make it easy to join you guys, but I absolutely would love to.
Yeah, but that's a perfect reason. I mean, we're gonna do the NHL Bruins in the first hour, and then we could talk prospects in the second hour, and we can work with your schedule. So
absolutely perfect.
So as of right now, in the Atlantic Division, the Providence Bruins are in third place, and you know what I find funny this season, and I'm not sure if I've ever noticed this last year, but is it the American Hockey League is actually ranking the teams by winning percentage and not points?
No, it's not points. Yeah, you're right. I always thought it would be by points, but no, I heard you're not the first person I saw this talk about this either. It's a couple of people at the Dunk have been mentioning it, and it's not. You're right. It's not about points this season. It's about win percentage, which is a stat I've never seen as a measuring stick. Yeah. It's always been how many points do you have and what's your regulation or overtime win percentage. And that is kind of a secondary fact. It wasn't like the primary measuring rod. It was points.
It doesn't make any sense that right now in the Atlantic Division, the Providence Bruins in 63 games at 37, 21, 3-2 was 79 points. But the winning percentage is a .627. Now, Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins have played 2 less games. They have 1 less win. The 19 losses, they have 78 points, and they have a .639 winning percentage, and they're technically in second place, which
just barely ahead of us. But actually, I don't know. Maybe with the game today, we can pull that record just a little bit closer. I don't even know how they do the math with this, other than. Yeah, I'm not really good at math, but yeah, I think we can pull pretty close to a Wilkes-Barre today if they can pull off that win against Bridgeport, which would be good because that would push Bridgeport a little further south than the Charlotte Checkers, and I'm imagining that the Checkers are probably going to play Lehigh Valley, who's in first place, so let them beat each other up before we have to play whoever's left.
Yeah, and with 9 games left to go, I believe, in the Providence Bruins season, the matchup today against Bridgeport. I mean, they're playing. Bridgeport's playing well. They're 7-3-0 in the last 10, and they're on a 1-game winning streak. So it's going to be a big test.
They're on a 1-game losing streak.
Oh, I just saw that. Sorry, my eyes got a little cross-eyed.
No, I was actually looking at the Charlotte Checkers, and I was like, no, that's 2-win streak, and then I realized which row I was looking at.
Yeah, that's what I was doing too. But regardless, it's going to be a big test. Hopefully the Providence Bruins are up for it. And coming down to the season, I mean, I don't know where the matchups are going to be. I haven't had time to really look into that. If you have any information on potential first round best of 5 matchups, let me know. Because
I believe it works the same way that the NHL does, where you have 1 playing 4 and then 2 and 3 playing, with 2 obviously getting a home ice advantage and 1 obviously getting home ice advantage over the 4th seed. I believe you play within your division, and then potentially the conference finals are where you meet somebody from the other division, and then you go on to play, obviously, in the Calder Cup finals if you move on past that. So I believe it's structured very similar to the NHL.
So with that being said, do you think it could be a Lehigh Valley Phantoms first round or Wilkes-Barre Scranton?
Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Because it would be, if we pass Wilkes-Barre Scranton, we're still only in second place. So we would then play at home the majority of the games against Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and then Lehigh Valley and Charlotte would play each other. The worst case scenario for the P Bruins is that they go on a terrible losing streak and they fall to 4th place, where they would match up against Lehigh Valley, and we would get waffle stomped.
Oh, yeah, I don't like the matchup with Lehigh Valley at all.
Unfortunately, we do play them, 4 or 5 times out of the last 9 games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the worst case scenario is that we drop to 4 and then see them again in the playoffs. Where, I don't think I'm kind of an optimist, except when it comes to certain matchups, and we would absolutely get waffle stomped here.
The scenario, if it did work out that way with Wilkes-Barre Scranton, is not always a good one in the past. I've seen this Penguins farm team, not roll over the Bruins, but win a lot of recent series. Last year, fortunately, the Bruins came out with a 3-2. I believe it was a first round best of 5, and they got lucky.
Yeah,
which absolutely started their roll onto the conference final against Syracuse, and Syracuse clinched their way into the playoffs. So, regardless,
Mark, was it Hershey in the first round, or was it Wilkes-Barre in the first round?
I thought it was Hershey first. I'm sorry. I thought it was Wilkes-Barre, then Hershey, and then Syracuse. That order could be wrong.
Yeah, I on my end too. I'm trying to remember exactly which, but yeah, exactly. I remember they carried us to the last game, and it was definitely a barn burner, as I remember too. So, the Penguins aren't exactly the easiest team to face, but I have much better hope going into that playoff series than I would against Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, Lehigh's just really doing well this year, and not to pump anybody's tires outside of the Providence Bruins, but that arena is pretty impressive.
The arena, they have their own pregame and postgame show.
Yeah. I was watching it on AHL Live.
Exactly. Everything about it is done so professionally. If anybody listening gets a chance to watch on AHL Live, please check out a game against the Lehigh Valley Phantoms where they're at home, because that's how the AHL should be. That's kind of the benchmark for how the rest of the league should be. They're just that good.
Yeah, the AHL live feed was just outstanding.
Crystal
it was
clear.
So HD, and it was so much better than the feed provided by the Providence Bruins.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I mean, I don't like to naysay them, but it leaves a lot to be desired.
They definitely have to step it up, and especially they should really consider this off season as a benchmark to get back into the radio. As much as I watch the games, and you do too. We watch every freaking game. Not having a home radio station to cover that part of the AHL live is really disturbing. And
I remember I was listening to the Rochester feed, and they butchered Senyshyn's name.
Oh, Senchin.
Every single time.
I hate when they call him Senchin. There's no CH. There's no CH in the middle of his name. It's Senishin, But regardless, we got to move on to other leagues. The East Coast Hockey League, the Atlanta Gladiators. Bruins 2015 third-round pick goaltender Dan Vladar is 3-5-0 in his last 10 games. And in that time frame, has a 3.08 goals against average and a 9.07 save percentage. Vladar has a 2017-18 season record of 15-17-0, 2.99 goals against, and a 9.10 save percentage. The Glads team has 7 games remaining in the season, with the next game on Monday night, March 19th, when Atlanta hosts rival the South Carolina Stingrays. Atlanta is 29-32, 2-2 on the season, and in 4th place in the East Coast Hockey League South Division. Excuse me. But when it comes to playoff talk, they are on the outside looking in 9th place as of today. Now, I know we discussed this 2 weeks ago when we had you on, but
let me beat that drum once more that the win-loss record and the statistics don't tell the full story. This is one of those cases where you need to do the eye test, because Vladar is a much better goalie than his ECHL numbers make him out to be. In fact, I want to say the week that I was supposed to be on with you, the prior week, he was called up for a game against Laval, and he looked so much better. He just looked amazing. It was great to watch him. He looked cool, confident. He had a good defense playing in front of him, and that's where the eye test comes in, that you got to watch him and see how he plays. He's a kind of a victim of a subpar team.
Yeah, and I have to, 2 weeks ago, I made a mistake. I thought he was unbeaten in the AHL, I'm sorry. But I was very well corrected by a good friend and other podcaster from the Something Bruin and PVD podcast told me that he did have one loss.
Yeah, he's 6-1 and I think 3.
Yeah. So he's got really good numbers in the AHL, and one thing I wanted to talk to you about is where he lands next season. The St. Louis Blues are going to have their own farm team as starting next year, so that is definitely going to create a spot. I don't see the Bruins making a deal for like a 7th round draft pick to keep Bennington in the system and keep Vladar down in the East Coast League. I think he really, and I understand it's a small sample size with 10 games in the AHL in that record, but he's proving that he belongs, or at least needs a chance in the AHL to prove himself. So I don't see Bennington coming back, and I see him moving up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm extremely hopeful that we do another one of those 1A, 1B tandems where McIntyre and Vladar kind of share the load, maybe skew it a little bit more in McIntyre's favor, just given that he's been the starter since 16-17, and we see more of Vladar, because you're right, he absolutely deserves a spot up in the AHL. He's proven it with 6 wins. I mean, 6 wins is nothing to shake a stick at when you're coming up from kind of a scrub league, and that you can fill in a more professional, a more high-stakes league like the AHL, that you can fit in and you can look natural and have a winning percentage. I think that speaks a lot to his maturity and development.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking to a player like Jeremy Swayman, which you had the opportunity to interview, a key role in the coaching comes down to new development coach Mike Dunham. And Dunham has made several trips down to Atlanta to be with Vladar and nurture him in the professional way, and exactly. Have that professional presence around. So good things are happening, not only with the prospects, but with the coaching staff. And not having a full-time AHL coach, goaltending coach, which I still think they really do need. I don't understand why the Bruins organization can't afford a salary of a guy to be there home and away, because we both know Bob Essenza can't be everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mike Dunham is not that coach that's going to be in Providence all the time. He's one of those. He's going everywhere in North America to be with these kids. So, moving forward, there are some good steps in Vladar's development, and I really want to see him get a chance. I'm really high on him. I was very excited when they got him in the draft as the second highest ranked European goaltender. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he's going to be a fun one to watch. I definitely think his ceiling is higher than McIntyre, or possibly his floor is higher than McIntyre.
Yeah.
If you kind of catch the analogy that maybe their ceilings are about the same, but at their worst, I think Vladar would be better than McIntyre.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Moving on to the Ontario Hockey League with the Oshawa Generals, B's 2017 second-round pick Jack Studnicka plays his last game of the 2017-18 regular season today when his Generals team hosts the Sudbury Wolves. Studnicka has 22 goals, 50 assists, 72 points in 66 games played this season, and is currently on a 5-game point streak with 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points in that time frame. The playoff-bound Oshawa team is set to play the Niagara Ice Dogs in Game 1 of the best-of-7 series on Friday night, March 23rd on the road. And 16 career OHL playoff games, Jack is 5, 12, and 17, and a -5.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing him tonight playing against the Wolves, because as soon as the P Bruins are over, the next stop on my little calendar is to watch the OHL and keep an eye on Captain Jack. I'm even thinking of possibly making a trip out to Niagara just to kind of watch one of those games if my schedule allows for it, just because that would be an experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the way Jack's played this year. I mean, he's definitely having career numbers. He's a 200-foot player. He's got a lot of decent attributes to work on as a developing player, but I really want to see him get stronger in the face-off circle.
Yeah,
even though it's like 50%, and that's still decent numbers for the type of player he is and where he's playing, he definitely needs to be better. And with everything that's going on, I'm curious to see when he is signed under an entry-level contract, but I'm actually very curious if he leaves the Ontario Hockey League early to become a professional in the AHL. I believe he is eligible next season as a 20-year-old. I could be wrong. But that all remains to be seen, because the Bruins just seem to be loading up on the NCAA, and definitely forgot to mention that Trent Frederick was officially added to the roster last night. So
okay,
he will be
today.
Yeah, he will. Well, I'm not sure if he will, but we should be seeing him today. That remains to be seen. I'm not saying anything that...
Yeah, exactly. I got to wait for the starting lineups to come out, but
exactly.
We could possibly see him today.
Yeah, I always wait for Mark Divers' roster
exactly.
to, because he's such a great person to follow. So it's his last game. He's currently on a 5-game point streak, and he could continue that. And I really hope he goes far in the playoffs, gets that experience. But regardless, if he does come to the AHL, I don't see him playing a huge role. What I find is a lot of players like this. They get called to the AHL and they really don't play, but they're more or less there for the experience, working out and so on. Getting along with the coaches, trying to get the system down.
Exactly.
Like Zach Senyshyn, he after his commitment was over, he came to the Providence Bruins and was forced into action because of an injury to Peter Cehlarik. So we'll see what happens with him. But his teammate Kyle Keyser, who was signed by the Bruins in the fall of 2017 to an entry-level contract, had a solid season in goal regardless of his two concussions. In 47 games played in the 2017-18 regular season, the Coral Springs native has 28 wins and 13 losses, and a kind of a high 3.15 goals against and a low 904 save percentage. In his last game against Peterborough, he gave up 8 goals in an 8-4 loss on March 16th, and looks to bounce back today against a struggling Sudbury team who is last in the Eastern Conference and winless in the last 2, and 3-5. And 2 in the last 10 games. So I like Keyser, and actually I had a conversation with Dominic Tiano, who's a writer in the Ontario Hockey League, and he does a fantastic job up there, and he follows a lot of the Bruins prospects very closely. And he said that the 2 concussions that he suffered this season alone is something to be concerned about, even though...
Yes, as you brought them up, the gears in my head were starting to turn, like, that's not good.
Right. So it kind of makes me wonder where the Bruins go into the 2018 draft from Dallas, Texas this season. They don't have a third... Well, they do have a third-round pick. I'm concerned about adding to the depth of the goal in case something is wrong with Kyle. I know he's playing somewhat okay, but...
His long-term health is kind of a concern. I'm almost wondering if he might hang his skates up a little bit early just because of all the concussions that he sustained. 2 in a season is a bit much for a guy that young.
Yeah, and both of them he's gotten trucked. He's gotten absolutely trucked over, and it's been... the replays that I've seen from... General's live Twitter account when they break down the video was I just ouch, you know. So remains to be seen what happens with his future. Hopefully nothing happens head-wise, because from the games that I've seen, he's very athletic. He reminds me of a better Malcolm Subban while he was here with his athleticism, but this type of player in comparison, he can make that save by being aggressive, but have the athleticism to get back and make the next save, where I found Subban was too aggressive and was never available to make that second save.
Except now he somehow does in Vegas.
I know. I know, right? And from people I talk to out in Vegas, they say that their goaltending coach is constantly with them every day. Always, they're very close, and I think that's what he needed in Providence.
You stole the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, I think that's what people like players like McIntyre need, and then Vladar coming up. I think that presence is so valuable to these kids these days. When you see a goaltending coach once a week, once a month, I'm not in the room, and I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but it just seems like they're not there all the time, and it's not that they don't care. It's just, they're not using an asset role that they should be using today. So it's just proving us wrong. We all thought that Subban was a decent prospect, but he just wasn't rising to the occasion when it came to the goaltending depth. And now we're seeing, and we're losing it because he got picked up off of waivers, and obviously the Las Vegas team is reaping the benefits.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah.
And it's good for Subban too, honestly, because it's nice to see him succeed. You'd see him so many times in Providence, and you'd see some just bad losses, and you'd think, man, we really whiffed on that pick. And then come to find out, he's actually a really good prospect. He's a really good player. He knows what he's doing. He's good at what he does. He just needed a little bit more attention than the Bruins could give him, or were willing to give him, is what my concern was.
Yeah, and definitely good for him. The next league, Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, is St. John Sea Dogs. Bruins 6th round selection in 2017, Cedric Pare. His season is over in the queue. as the Sea Dogs team that was the best last year, winning the President's Trophy and making a 2017 Memorial Cup appearance, failed to make the playoffs this season with only 14 wins in 68 games played.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. And the last place team in the league, Pare ended the year with 13 goals, 24 assists, 37 points, and in 129 career games in the Q, has 18 goals, 36 assists, 54 points. So
he's done so much better than he did his draft year. I'm quite impressed with how he's really, now that he's been drafted, he's really working on improving his game, and it's showing up on the stat sheet for sure. But just he seems like a much more complete player than before. I mean, his skating still needs a bit of work, but the old saying goes, if you're a tall guy, you have to prove that you can't play hockey. Whereas if you're a short guy, they have to prove that you can play. So I think he's at least got the size going for him, and maybe that over the summer, over the off season, he can get with some of the Bruins skating coaches, or maybe even the Sea Dogs skating coaches. I don't know, what have you. But if he can work on that stride, I think he's got a better shot of making a deeper impact at the higher leagues, even the NHL one day. I mean, I think I saw somebody once saying that they thought his ceiling was a second or a third line center, but it remains to be seen how much he wants to work on it, because he's got the frame. He just needs the IQ and the skating legs for it.
Yeah, friend of the show and Rogers TV color analyst, and he's also a scout, Craig Eagles. We talk at least once a week about what's going on with Pare, and he continues to tell me that he's still working hard and does all the right things. He's not that type of player right now in his development that's going to be putting 60 to 70 points up, because he needs to work on his fundamentals and his attributes as he continues to develop. And I don't want to criticize certain websites, but there's Craig Eagles did mention that Pare could join the Providence Bruins as early as as soon as possible. But signing an entry-level contract, I don't see it happening right now, just because of the way that the depth is at center. So I think by having, even though if he signs an entry-level contract, he can still go back to the queue. But I believe this person that wrote this article was mentioning that he could be signed and stay in Providence, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that, just given maybe his age and kind of his draft position. But to his credit, he's been wearing the C down in the Q the whole season, so it's got to speak to his character and his kind of his maybe intangibles more than anything else. So at the very least, he'd probably be a good locker room guy. But yeah, you're right. I don't know as if I see him joining Providence or far away from the big club yet. It just that it would be nice, but yeah, I don't think that's in the cards right now, especially given our depth at center. We seem to have just
that's what I think that wasn't. I'm not criticizing the article or anything like that. I just don't think that it was. I think what was read from Craig Eagles' tweet was just taken a little further than the research allowed. Prospects can come to the team on an ATO and not sign permanently. So
it makes me think of the silly scene from it's an old sports movie, Angels in the Outfield, and one of the young kids, one of the young stars from the movie, one of his famous lines is, "It could happen."
Yeah, right.
It could, but I don't know about if it actually will.
Yeah, I just don't think he's ready for the AHL quite yet. So I just think he needs a little more work. And as the center depth continues to, be weeded out, I think an opportunity for him after next season would be definitely in the cards.
Absolutely.
So. My predictions for him and where he lands, if he stays with the Bruins organization in the future, is definitely a third or a fourth line center.
Yeah, exactly. he's a good kid, but yeah, you're right. Maybe not. The toolbox analogy. Maybe he doesn't have the toolbox stocked as fully as some other prospects might.
Yep. Jumping to the NCAA, not much to talk about. I mean, we did touch on Trent Frederick. He signed an entry-level contract leaving Wisconsin. In the week before that, Cam Hughes, a good friend and fellow teammate, Badger teammate, signed an entry-level contract. So it kind of made me think about when Hughes signed, how much longer was it take before Frederick was going to move? And I think I really don't want to see what happened to Danton Heinen when Danton Heinen left his sophomore year at Denver. So I know Danton struggled a little bit in his first year, but I think Frederick is just a little better. It's kind of hard to say. He's not. He's not better. He's not at that time when Heinen was at Denver. I'm talking about not now. So Frederick right now has got a huge ceiling. I've talked to many people that are around the Badgers, and they've all said that he's got a professional release, a professional shot. He's got great strides. He can skate. He's got a great 200-foot game, 3-zone player, and his IQ is just tremendous. So I am super psyched to see him in a Providence uniform, and hopefully it happens today because I've been following him. I've had great conversations with his family. His father and mother are great people. I know one of his brothers, they always make the trip to development camp, and that's when I have my opportunity to jump on an interview. So he's just a good kid, family kid, and he's got a tremendous future. And it makes me wonder, the intel that the Bruins had at the 2016 draft when he was selected with the 29th pick in the first round. Anaheim, it's been mentioned that Anaheim was really targeting him in the first round, and the Bruins got some of that intel and jumped on it. So I think it was a great move, regardless of popular opinion. I think people now are realizing that it was a solid pick.
Exactly, and I'm kind of disparaging what Keith Gretzky said, because I really love Keith Gretzky, not going to lie. He was a great amateur scout for the Bruins, but just don't like that he said what the comments that he made about Frederick when they initially selected him. It's kind of, you just selected the guy. Let him grow. Let him see let's see what he actually has to offer the Bruins. I mean, don't kind of put a cap on what you think his ceiling is going to be.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of weird coming from a guy like him that's been around the scouting range for a long time.
Exactly. It's one of those. That should have been an off the record quote. And
yeah.
You're right. It's kind of a head scratcher.
Yeah. But regardless of that, we got to talk about Ryan Donato.
Donato watch.
Yeah, Donato watch. Drives me absolutely crazy.
I know. I was in the bank yesterday, and I actually typed out Donato watch on the little hashtag search on Twitter to see if it was actually a thing, and it was. I was like, really?
Oh yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I have a feeling I know who started that whole hashtag. So he's a great guy, but he's got lofty goals, and I'm a remains a
little bit of empty space in the skull.
Yeah, I'm a remains to be seen type of guy.
Exactly.
When it comes to prospects, I do not say will. I do not say definite. I do not say anything like that because I don't get involved in that. Ryan's a good player. He's a great prospect. He's going to be a great Bruin. I just don't see him making a trip to Boston this season. I think the idea is not dumb. I just think people, like Court says on our regular program, it's that shiny toy that everybody wants to see.
Yep.
And I don't think that his placement on this Bruins roster this season is warranted. I think that he should finish the year if he wants to sign. I mean, he still has the option to go back to school. People don't think that he is going to do that, but it all remains to be seen. And the fact is that I don't see a player that's been with the NHL Bruins taking a seat and being comfortable with that, with a guy that's got no NHL experience coming into the team. And you know,
that would send a horrible message to the guys in the locker room who have been battling and fighting their way through what's been a remarkably awesome season for the Bruins. And yeah, you're right, to have some youngster come in and take your spot, that just, it sends such a bad message to the rest of the guys. Like, oh yeah, it's kind of the shiny new toy mentality. Like, oh, you're old news now. We've got this new guy who we're going to replace you with.
Yep. Yeah, and regardless of his play in the Olympics, I mean, there were no NHL players there. They were former.
He was fighting against
former NHL players.
Yeah, he was against kind of developmental guys or the super team that the athletes from a country other than Russia brought, or whatever that team was called.
AOR?
OAR, yeah. Other athletes, Russia, something like that. But yeah, it's a preview of what he can be, but you're hitting it on the mark that there was no other NHL competition there. So what's the real barometer of how far he's actually into his development? We don't know if he's actually NHL ready yet.
Some people just seem to think that he is, just because of his college stats. He was almost a 1.5 per game player throughout the 2017-18 season at Harvard. In 29 games played, he's got 26 goals, 17 assists, and 43 points. You know, and he had a decent first the ECAC tournament. They won the best of 3 against Dartmouth, and they moved on to play Clarkson, which ultimately they lost to, and now they're out. So Donato watch is fully on. So I if he signs, he signs. I'm all for what the Bruins want to do, because it's their show.
Just because of his pedigree doesn't mean that you have to rush him right in.
Exactly. And I think that's what a lot of people, they're like, well, his father did it. Well, it's a different time. I don't. That's the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, you're absolutely comparing kind of apples to oranges here, because it's almost a completely different game than it was back then. It's the same game, but not.
Yeah, and I know I'm going to get hammered for it, but I don't want him in the NHL right now. I want him to start off fresh. If he signs and he makes the roster after rookie camp and NHL training camp in September, I'm all for it. But he's got to earn it.
I don't want to see him follow the full Detroit model where they stay in the AHL forever, but I do want to see a kind of seasoning at that level, if you will, before he makes the jump to the NHL to get a taste of professional hockey, because the professional game is so much different than anything in the amateur leagues. I mean, I remember when I went to the NCAA game with Swayman, it was a lot more tame than the NHL was, or even the AHL was especially. The pace of the play is far, far different, and I'm not sure that Donato is going to be ready to jump right into the faster, harder hitting, more open ice kind of game that the NHL plays. Right.
Absolutely. We do have a couple more minutes if you want to talk about that that experience you had when Providence played.
So I went to Providence College. I was media credentialed along with my partner, and we unfortunately didn't get to spend the whole game in the press box, as the press row was incredibly full. But we did get a chance to go down to the locker rooms after the fact and get the post game. It was great to listen to UMaine coach Red Gendron to hear some of his comments about the loss. Unfortunately, Maine got swept both games, losing I believe it was 4-3 and then 3-2. The game that I went to, unfortunately, Maine got almost run right out the building back to Orono, where they play. They had a bad first period where they let in 3 goals, but then beginning of the second period, they scored 2 back-to-back. It was great to talk to Swayman. That guy is such a professional. He's so fun to talk to. I mean, you kind of heard it when you did your interview with him, Mark, more than a few episodes ago, and he's just such a great guy to talk to, and he speaks so glowingly about the coaches at Maine being more than just coaches to him. They're not just there to give him advice about hockey, but to give him advice about life and just that how to be not only a good player on the ice, but a good player off the ice as well. And it's so evident when you talk to him, when you kind of interact with him. It was nice to be able to just chat with him kind of for a few minutes before we even did the interview, and just to kind of get to know each other on a slightly more personal level. And then after the fact, he let me snap a quick picture with him, and the whole experience start to finish was amazing. I can't say enough good things about Swayman, that he's a consummate professional off the ice, and he's a real fun guy to watch on the ice too. Yeah, I mean, you always kind of hear that goalies are a bit weird, but I never sensed that coming from him. He was just a very genuine, down-to-earth guy I really hope that he makes such strides in the future. And what I liked about kind of when I was doing the research for the article, that he wasn't exactly the greatest thing in Sioux Falls in the USHL, the developmental league, before he got to college. And then he hit the development camp after his draft year, and snap of the fingers, right away, he was already leaps and bounds better. He had a much better winning record in Maine, and I feel like the coaching that he received in those 4 days with Bob Essensa and Mike Dunham, and then continued with Alfie Michaud up at UMaine, really helped to kind of bring a more complete, a more authoritarian style to his game, and he's been turning heads all over the NCAA. I mean, if you read some of his accolades, they leap right off the page at you, that he's just making such a great name for himself among the NCAA ranks and in the goalie ranks. I think he's going to be a real special guy to watch, and I'm confident that he's going to at least get a cup of coffee at the NHL sometime down the road. I'm not sure when. It's that's what I'll leave up to kind of Sweeney to decide, but I really think that this guy's got a bright future ahead, and not just at the collegiate or even the AHL level. I think this guy's I always kind of talk about an it factor. It's kind of like a checkbox, and that guy's got it. And I'm confident he's going to make a splash in the Bruins system heretofore. Absolutely.
Yeah, and if listeners want to see how well he's doing and how many awards and recognition he's getting, just type in Jeremy Swayman on Twitter and look at the timeline that that website offers. And I mean, selected to the USA World Juniors, selected. He's an All-Star candidate or All-Star mention, and he's Rookie of the Month and Rookie East Hockey East Rookie of the Month and Rookie of the Week, and I mean, there's a lot of great mentions and he's only a freshman.
Exactly, yeah.
So he's got like 2 or 3 more years at Maine before he makes a decision on what he wants to do for his future. So I mean, that's all good things right there. I mean, he's definitely a solid member of this Boston Bruins developing depth. So,
and it's great that he handles it with a very down-to-earth demeanor, and that he's not kind of one of these, look at me, I'm a Bruins prospect guy. He's a very humble guy. Yeah. He's a very reachable guy that you can just, you can talk to him as if he were a colleague more than somebody that you're kind of looking up at, even though I'm not the tallest guy in the world, and I was looking up at him.
Yep.
So
that's what I hear from so many people that are from Alaska. I mean, except for Sarah Palin. Most of them all are really great people, and they're well spoken and well mannered. So I had to throw in the political thing there.
But yeah, I mean, I remember the media packet that I got handed when I went to the game. and you just read there was sections and paragraphs about Swayman, and I remembered I had to try to keep my article as kind of to the facts, and as much as like I try to keep it as kind of short, but
it was a good read.
It was so much to write about, though, because, I mean, he's just been that good. I mean, Maine hasn't had a winning record since, I believe it was 13-14, and then they haven't gone this far in the playoffs since 06-07, and that was the year Ben Bishop was their freshman. So, he's kind of in good company if you're saying the name Ben Bishop and a winning record attributed to Jeremy Swayman. I think he's definitely got it, Mark. I'm really high on this guy as kind of a goalie prospect. I don't know if it's as high as I am on Vladar, but they're probably right about equal right now. That out of all of our prospects, him and Vladar just we picked good ones right there.
Nice. Well, Josh, thank you so much again for another great week of having you on, talking prospects. I really enjoy having you and your insight. So please.
Pleasure's all mine, Mark. Thank you so much. It's a great time to talk. I love just this kind of back and forth about prospects in the system, and it's kind of a topic that doesn't get as much attention as it should.
And that's what we try to do. But please, I recommend, if you're a Twitter follower, please go to @2Causeway. Follow Josh. He's got really good insight, and he watches every game, even though he's watching from work, which I think is sacrilege because I can't do it. But
certain sacrifices.
Yeah, I know. But also, please go to shippingupthecauseway.com and follow his blog. He does a fantastic job breaking down the Providence Bruins. A lot of great stats, a lot of good analytical views. So I highly recommend. So
appreciate the kudos and the praise, Mark. Very, very nice of you, and I look forward to the next time that we talk.
Absolutely, we'll talk about that during the week and find out some available time frames. So we'll make it work. So thank you very much for listening, everybody. Josh, again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you all next week.
Till next time.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's show. You can follow the guys on Twitter at blackandgold277, at Court Lalonde, and at Rob40Bruins. You can also send us an email to the show's account at blackandgoldhockeyblog@gmail.com.